All right, strap yourselves in because today we're going deep on something really mind-bending.
Well, yeah.
The Earth prison theory,
Definitely one of those theories that kind of grabs you.
for sure.
Yeah.
And it's not just like some fringe internet thing, you know?
Right.
It actually gets at some pretty big questions about like humanity's place in the universe.
Absolutely.
So the basic idea is that Earth isn't actually our home planet,
Mm.
but instead it's more like this giant cosmic prison
Okay.
for alien criminals who are like exiled here.
Interesting.
We're going to be using this really interesting discussion from a Chinese language video as our guide today.
Okay.
We're going to be looking at where this whole theory came from and like the evidence that people use to support it.
Sounds fascinating. The speakers in the video, they actually go pretty deep into the arguments made by Ellis Silver.
Oh yeah, I've heard of him.
Yeah, he's an American ecologist and like a major proponent of this whole Earth prison idea.
Right.
His work really centers around this idea that humans have all these unique traits that suggest we're not actually well suited to Earth's environment.
Okay, let's break this down. What kind of traits are we talking about?
Well, one of the first things Silver points to is back pain.
Back pain? Really?
Yeah. He argues that unlike other large mammals, we humans suffer from back pain because of Earth's gravity.
Like our bodies weren't designed to walk upright.
Right.
Interesting. You know what makes this even weirder is that like the fossil record shows this really sudden transition to bipedalism in early hominids.
Yeah, it's like all of a sudden they just stood up.
Exactly. It makes you wonder like what evolutionary pressure would have caused that.
For sure.
Like, I mean, it's not like you see gorillas and chimps complaining about their bad backs.
Right.
So back pain is point number one.
Yeah.
What else does Silver bring up?
Another thing he talks about is how sensitive human skin is.
Oh yeah, for sure. We burn so easily in the sun.
Right. And unlike a lot of other animals who can just like hang out in the sun for hours.
Exactly. It
Yeah.
doesn't seem fair.
Yeah. The speakers in the video actually speculate that maybe our species originated on a planet that was farther from the sun,
Okay.
where our skin didn't need to be as resilient.
Makes you wonder.
It does.
Okay, so we got back pain, sunburns. What else makes Earth feel like prison, according to Silver?
Well, this is one that pretty much everyone can relate to.
Okay.
Childbirth. It's like a universal human experience.
For sure.
But compared to other mammals, human childbirth is so much harder.
Right, it's often dangerous.
Exactly. And Silver says it's because of the large size of infant heads compared to the birth canal.
It's crazy when you think about how easily other animals give birth.
Right. Like horses.
Yeah, or even pandas.
Compared to the complicated and sometimes even life-threatening process of human childbirth.
It does make you wonder if there's something off about our design.
Yeah. And it raises some interesting evolutionary questions.
Like what?
Like, why would natural selection favor a trait like a large infant head,
Yeah,
which makes both survival and reproduction more difficult?
that's a great point. Now, Silver's final piece of evidence, if I remember correctly, is our susceptibility to chronic illnesses.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He says that compared to animals in the wild,
Right.
humans seem to be prone to a whole bunch of chronic illnesses.
Yeah.
And animals just don't really experience these kinds of long-term health issues.
Interesting. And the speakers in the video, they actually joke about their own health challenges here,
Yeah.
which I thought was kind of funny.
Right. It makes this whole thing a bit more relatable.
Yeah, for sure. So let's say for a second that we entertain this idea that Earth really is a prison planet.
Okay.
Who are the wardens?
That's where things get even more interesting.
Okay, I'm listening.
The video actually proposes two potential candidates:
Give it to me.
UFOs
Whoa.
and the moon.
Okay, UFOs as wardens. That's a new one.
Right.
How does that work?
Well, the idea is that those frequent UFO sightings we hear about all the time,
Right.
those could be the wardens checking in on their prisoners,
Okay.
making sure we're not causing any trouble.
So all those mysterious lights in the sky,
Yeah.
just extraterrestrial guards doing their rounds.
Basically.
Oh,
Now, the other candidate, the moon as warden, is even more out there.
okay.
Well, the video talks about some of the moon's unusual characteristics.
Like what?
Well, like its size relative to Earth, and how it's perfectly synchronized in its orbit.
Okay.
And they say that these things suggest it might not be a natural satellite at all,
Whoa.
but rather some kind of artificial construct
Okay.
that was placed to monitor Earth.
So instead of a natural satellite, the moon is like a giant celestial security camera.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
And, if we take this even further and connect it to some broader concepts,
Okay.
it starts to tie into some pretty interesting religious and philosophical ideas.
I like where this is going.
These wardens, whether they're UFOs or the moon watching us,
Right.
they kind of start to sound like the watchers or angels
Oh, yeah.
that are described in a lot of religious traditions.
Right. These beings that are constantly observing us.
Exactly. Keeping an eye on everything we do.
It goes even deeper than that, right?
It does.
I mean,
Yeah.
some people who believe in the Earth prison theory, they say that our physical bodies themselves are like prison uniforms
Yeah.
that are trapping our consciousness here on Earth.
Exactly. And there are some spiritual beliefs that actually kind of echo this idea.
Like what?
Well, like the Chinese myth of Nua molding humans from clay,
Right.
which suggests that we have this pre-existing spiritual essence that's been confined to these physical forms.
So our bodies are less like Earthling and more like a cosmic orange jumpsuit.
That's one way to think about it.
Okay, but it still begs the question, like, why are we imprisoned here at all?
Right.
What did we do?
Well, the video explores that too.
Okay.
They suggest that our capacity for violence and destructive behavior might be evidence of some kind of criminal past.
Interesting. And they contrast animal violence, which is
Right.
usually just for survival,
Right.
with human violence, which can be driven by things like greed and power.
Exactly. Or just plain cruelty.
Yeah, that's true. It's almost like we're hardwired for conflict in a way that other animals aren't.
It is kind of strange when you think about it.
Does the video offer any insight into why the wardens would allow this conflict to continue?
They do. They propose a couple of possibilities.
Okay.
Maybe it's a form of punishment,
Okay.
or maybe it's a way to keep us contained
Right.
and prevent us from causing trouble on a larger scale.
It's a grim thought.
It is.
But it does offer a different perspective on some of the darker parts of human history.
Definitely.
Huh.
So we've got disgruntled aliens, possible UFO guards, and the moon as a giant surveillance system.
Right.
What else is in this Earth prison theory starter pack?
Well, the speakers also tie this all back to the ancient Sumerian myth of the Anunnaki.
Oh, the Anunnaki.
Yeah, who are said to have come to Earth to mine gold.
Right.
But in this version of the story,
Hmm.
the Anunnaki weren't just visitors.
Well,
They were the original prisoners who were sent to Earth.
interesting.
And get this,
What?
they used humans as slave labor to do their mining.
And they even suggest that modern-day elites, like the Illuminati, could be descendants of these Anunnaki,
Oh.
continuing to monitor and control us from the shadows.
We're getting into some conspiracy theory territory.
It is. It's like a cosmic thriller.
And they point to the eye symbol on the dollar bill.
Wait, really?
Yeah, as a symbol of this Anunnaki surveillance.
So that pyramid with the eye,
Yeah,
it's not just a cool design?
maybe not. It could be a sign that Big Brother Anunnaki is always watching.
That's kind of creepy. This whole Earth prison theory really goes into some wild places.
It does. But it's important to remember that this is just one interpretation.
Right.
There are other perspectives out there, and it's important to look at all sides of this.
That's a great point. We need to keep thinking critically about all of this.
Uh,
So we've gone through some of the more, I guess you could say, captivating arguments behind the Earth prison theory.
yeah,
But like with anything, we got to explore all sides.
right, of course.
Are there like any reasons to be skeptical of this whole cosmic prison thing? Absolutely. While it's a fun theory to think about, there are a lot of reasons to question if it's really true.
Okay, so, like, what are we talking about?
Well, a lot of scientists consider these arguments to be pseudoscience.
Pseudoscience.
Yeah. Meaning they don't really have the evidence or the testing you need to call it like a valid scientific theory.
So it's kind of like believe it if you want to.
Yeah, basically. But there are specific scientific counterarguments too.
Oh, okay. What?
Let's start with the back pain thing.
Right.
Humans definitely experience back pain.
Yeah, nobody's arguing that.
Right. But saying it's only because of Earth's gravity is way too simple.
Okay, so what's the real story?
Well, back pain is actually influenced by a bunch of things.
Like what?
Our lifestyle, posture, underlying medical conditions. It's complicated.
So it's not as simple as saying, oh, our alien bodies just aren't meant for this gravity.
Not really. I think the astronauts in zero gravity get back pain sometimes.
Huh, that's true. So pinning it all on Earth's gravity is a bit of a stretch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about that argument about our fragile skin? There's actually a pretty solid explanation for that from an evolutionary biology perspective.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm all ears.
Well, you see, early humans evolved in Africa where the sun is really strong.
Makes sense.
This led to darker skin pigmentation as protection against UV radiation.
Ah.
And then as humans moved to less sunny areas,
Okay.
lighter skin evolved to help absorb vitamin D.
Interesting. So our skin sensitivity is more about adapting to different environments over time,
Exactly.
not about us being from another planet.
It's a pretty cool example of evolution in action.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, but what about childbirth? It's definitely tougher for humans than for lots of other animals.
That's true. But you got to look at the evolutionary trade-offs.
Trade-offs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those big brains that make childbirth hard.
Right.
Well, those are also what let us develop language and create tools and build societies.
So our big heads are both a blessing and a curse.
You could say that.
Yeah.
We get intelligence and creativity.
But also some pretty painful childbirth experiences.
That's all about perspective.
I guess so. Now, what about Silver's claim that humans get chronic illnesses way more than animals? It does seem like we're always getting sick.
Yeah, there's a reason for that.
What is it?
Well, in the wild, animals face all sorts of threats.
Right. Predators.
Exactly. Injuries, starvation, they often die from those things before they even have the chance to develop chronic illnesses.
Never thought about that.
But humans, we live longer
Yeah,
and we have access to healthcare.
true.
So we're more likely to live long enough to experience age-related health problems.
So it's not that animals are healthier, it's that they often don't live long enough to get those kinds of illnesses.
Plus, animals do get sick sometimes.
Yeah, I'm sure they do.
We just don't see it as much because weak or sick animals are more likely to die.
Makes sense. Okay, so we've kind of debunked some of Silver's main arguments.
It seems like it.
But what about some of the other parts of the Earth prison theory? Like the whole warden thing? Are there any scientists out there who back up the idea of UFOs or the moon playing that role?
Well, about UFOs.
Yeah.
The idea of them as wardens depends on UFO sightings actually being aliens,
Okay.
which is still a big debate among scientists.
Right, I can see that.
Many scientists believe that most, if not all of those sightings can be explained by totally normal stuff.
And the moon as this giant surveillance device.
Well, that's where the theory really starts to lose credibility.
Yeah, I can see that.
We have tons of scientific data about the moon.
Right.
Its formation, composition, behavior.
Okay.
And none of it says that it's artificial.
So no secret alien bases or cameras on the moon?
Nope. Not that we know of, at least.
Yeah.
And it's cool to connect those warden ideas to religious things like watchers or angels.
Yeah, for sure.
But those are just mythological concepts.
Right.
It's important to separate mythology from actual scientific evidence.
I agree with that. Okay, what about the Anunnaki?
The Anunnaki.
Yeah, remember the theory says they were the first prisoners? And that, like, modern-day elites could be their descendants controlling humanity.
Yeah, that's a very interesting idea.
Does that idea hold any water?
It's important to remember that the Anunnaki are from ancient Sumerian mythology.
Right.
And while they're important characters in those stories, there's no archaeological proof that they were real.
So they're more likely just ancient stories.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the idea that the Illuminatis are descended from them and controlling everything,
Yeah,
that's definitely a conspiracy theory.
I could see that.
And remember, those kinds of claims usually don't have real evidence to support them.
So it seems like we've kind of debunked a lot of the Earth prison theory.
Yeah, we've poked some holes in it.
But even if we ignore the more out there claims, is there anything valuable we can learn from all of this? It really feels like we've taken this Earth prison theory apart piece by piece.
Yeah, we've looked at it from all sides.
But even if we don't buy into the more literal claims of it,
Right.
are there any parts of it that are still kind of valuable?
Oh, absolutely. While the specifics might not hold up scientifically,
Right.
the theory makes us think about some pretty big questions.
About human nature and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like where we fit into the universe.
I'm curious to hear more about that. What kind of questions are we talking about?
Well, one of the main ideas in the theory is that humans have all these traits that suggest we don't really belong here.
Like the back pain and the sunburns.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And even if the explanations aren't totally right,
Okay.
they make you wonder if we're really meant for this planet.
Yeah, that's true. It does feel like we struggle with our environment more than other animals do.
Right.
We make shoes to protect our feet and sunscreen for our skin,
Yeah.
and we have all this technology to deal with childbirth.
It's like we're always trying to overcome these basic challenges.
Exactly. So maybe there's some truth to the idea that we're not totally at home here.
Maybe. Even if Earth isn't literally a prison,
Right.
we might still be trapped in a way by our bodies, our minds, our place in the universe.
And that theme of being trapped or controlled,
Yeah.
that connects to another big part of the theory,
What's that?
the whole surveillance thing.
Right. The UFOs, the moon, the Anunnaki watching us.
Yeah, it taps into this real fear that a lot of people have about being manipulated.
Especially now with all the technology and stuff.
It makes you wonder if we really have free will
Hmm.
or if we're being influenced by something else.
That's a question people have been asking forever.
It is. So even though the Earth prison theory might not be literally true,
Right.
it gives us some interesting metaphors to think about.
Exactly, about who we are and how we relate to the world.
I like that. This deep dive has really been a trip.
Yeah.
It's made me realize how much we still don't know about everything.
There's so much out there to discover.
And who knows what we'll find out in the future.
Exactly. What seems impossible today could be normal tomorrow.
That's true. Think about how much we've learned even in the last 100 years.
It's amazing,
And maybe those discoveries will completely change how we see things.
right? Maybe there's life out there that's so different from us that we can't even imagine it.
And that kind of brings us back to the Earth prison theory.
Hmm.
Even if it's not true, literally,
Okay.
it makes you wonder if there are other civilizations out there who see us in a way we can't even comprehend.
Yeah, like what if we met an alien species?
Right.
Would they think we're equals?
Or would they see us as primitive or dangerous?
Or even as prisoners?
I wonder if they'd see us as like an experiment.
Hmm.
A young species with a lot of potential, but also a lot of problems.
Or maybe they'd see us as a warning.
Right, like a civilization on the path to destroying itself.
It's interesting to think about.
This whole discussion has really made me think outside the box.
Me too.
It's a good reminder that we're always learning.
Absolutely. And sometimes even the craziest ideas can teach us something.
So to everyone listening out there,
Yeah.
here's something to think about.
Okay.
Whether or not you believe the Earth is a prison,
Hmm.
what if our real goal is to grow beyond our limits?
Right. To become something more.
What if the real escape isn't from Earth,
Okay.
but from the things that hold us back inside ourselves?
Like our negativity and our bad habit.
Exactly. What if it's all about breaking free and reaching our full potential?
That's a powerful idea.
This has been a really amazing deep dive.
It has.
It's not just about whether the Earth is a prison. It's about our place in the universe and what it means to be human.
And remember,
Yeah.
we're always learning and growing.
So keep exploring and keep asking questions.
And keep looking up at the
and
stars.
wondering what's out there.
Exactly.